In 1985, Steven Spielberg's film of Alice Walker's The Color Purple reignited controversy surrounding the author's depiction of black men. While the film received critical acclaim, including 11 Academy Award nominations, Walker was conflicted by its success. 10 years later, she reveals the private and public difficulties she faced during the filming of her Pulitzer Prize-winning novel. I'm pleased to have her here to talk about this book, The Same River Twice, Honoring the Difficult. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Charlie. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you here. It's hard for me not to smile at you because of all the wonderful appearances that you have had on this program. So,
well, I smile back.
You did.
That helps.
It does help. Why did you want to do this, write this book, and go back over your involvement in that film? Was it to set the record straight? Was it to say things you hadn't had a chance to say? Was it somehow to go back and make some amends for what might have been impressions at that time?
Well, a little bit of all of that. But actually, I had done 5 years of work on female genital mutilation, writing about it, making a film, and then writing a book about making a film. And I was very tired. So I took myself to the country, and I decided to give myself a sabbatical. I like to say that as a woman of color, every 7 centuries, I deserve a sabbatical. So I sat there, and I played with my dog, and I planted my collard greens. And in about the 6th month, I started to realize that when you are the object of a severe trashing, it is not unlike what happens in patriarchal cultures where they mutilate women genitally. I mean, it's as if people try to close your mouth in the same way, although not with thread and needle, that they do in cultures where they infibulate women in order to control them.
What you were upset about with respect to the filming of The Color Purple was that the movie did not, you thought, do justice.
It was a very different movie.
To the character, and it was not the screenplay that you had written.
No, it wasn't.
So what didn't you like about it?
Well, I would have liked it to be more about the women and less about the men. But I have no real qualms. I grew to love the film, as I talk about in the book.
Did you love it at the time when it first came out?
No, the first time I saw it in a theater with 2 people, a huge cavernous theater, and it just seemed terrible. I just had the worst headache I've ever had in my life. But then later, after I bought a magic wand and came to New York to see it in a theater filled with people, it was quite different.
So you came to that theater with your magic wand?
I did, and I just went...
What was it about? I mean, what were the characters? I mean, you wanted more about Celie, you wanted more what?
Well, I thought it would have been wonderful to have more of the women's relationship developed so that you'd have, for instance, Celie and Shug just living in this enormous house, the 2 of them, and we would have a chance to see women's culture and what women would have in a house, you know, that is theirs.
And women's passion for each other.
Women's passion for each other. I thought that would have been very nice.
Yeah. And you didn't think that, in fact, Margaret Avery was the right person to characterize as an actress by the way she looked, what Shug was like in your imagination?
Well, Shug, of course, in my imagination as a Southern woman, Shug would have been much bigger. She would have had, you know, a real full body. But I don't have any problems really with this Shug, too. I mean, because there are skinny Shugs and slight, slender, beautiful Shugs as well. But I needed to go back and really look at all of the issues. And also, I found it very oppressive to have anyone think of me as a person who hated anyone.
Especially men.
Especially anyone. But yes, especially black men.
Yeah, that was what seemed to drive you.
Well, it isn't true. I mean, I just, you know, I've gotten so much of my own courage and strength and everything from black men, and I would never do anything to hurt them. I mean, it's as if you're saying, you know, you hate your father, you hate your brothers, you hate your nephews, you know, all of that, and this is not true. Did you receive criticism from within the African American community because of they looked at this film and said that's what she thinks of black men and therefore? Well, many of them, of course, didn't read the book or see the film, so it wasn't about, you know, what I thought. I mean, if they really wanted to know what I thought, they would have read the book and tried to see the film. I think that there is a way in which many people who have had a long history of being battered, by society, and this is very natural and normal, they begin to feel that everything then is about battering them. And I've been very sensitive to that.
What'd you think of the Million Man March?
Oh, I sat up in my pajamas and watched it the entire day, and I thought it was wonderful.
In your pajamas?
Mm-hmm.
Why were you in your pajamas for the entire day?
Well, because because it came on very early, in California.
Oh, that's right. You were in California. You were up
early.
in San Francisco. Where's it?
Mendocino. And furthermore, I had to have my television set repaired in order to watch it because it had been on the blink for months.
And you listened to all those speeches?
Yes, every one. Because I wanted to know what black men are saying, to each other, which is the most important conversation, and then to everybody else. And I thought it was really wonderful.
Did you see where in the news yesterday Farrakhan is over visiting Nelson Mandela?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, he should visit wherever he
Nelson
likes.
Mandela said to him, let's make sure that there's no racism or anti-Semitism in what you believe in.
Yes.
That's what Mandela said to
absolutely. And
Farrakhan.
See, that is what happens when you can talk to anyone. That means that anyone can then give you the benefit of their experience and their wisdom. And as we know, Mandela has lots of both.
Probably the most, of all the leaders, has more moral stamina, moral standing
he seems to
than
be
anybody in the world.
Well, I don't know about that, but he seems to be...
Tell me another candidate.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that often we forget that some of the great people are totally unknown.
Well, that's true.
And they're quite moral, they're quite wonderful.
And that's right.
But they're down in some little town, and where we hope they will stay because they'll probably be happier there than anywhere else.
In the same vein, that some of the most courageous people in the world are those people with limited resources who are every day worrying about their children going to school, getting an education, and with limited resources making sure that they have a chance at life.
Absolutely.
And that's an act of courage and high calling.
And true greatness.
And truly great, and not off, and rewarded by, them seeing. And what happens to some of the battles that they have to fight is an assault on all that we believe in.
In fact, until each of us becomes our own leader, we really don't have much of a chance of changing anything. And so that should be our desire, to develop ourselves so that we can lead ourselves and not be led by people, no matter how highly moral or intelligent or awesome they may seem.
Are you your own leader?
I am.
This book is dedicated to Steven Spielberg and Quincy Jones.
Yes.
One did
and
the
my
music.
family.
And your family, right. I mean, I'll read it then.
Don't forget my family.
I'm not forgetting your family. You know how much I love Rebecca. For my beloved family, ancestral and present, to whom the persistent audaciousness of art has kept me close.
Yes.
The audaciousness of art. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean the boldness of it, because I have taken stories from my family and from my ancestors, and I have just embroidered them incredibly so that they are entirely different from the lives that these people lived. And it's because I love them, and I want to show them, I want to take them. I mean, these are people like my grandmother, who never went anywhere. She never knew what was in the next town. So I will take a character, give that character my grandmother's name, and I will send her as far as ships will sail, as far as planes will fly, so that she will know that the world is large and to see that there are other people in it, really incredible people, for her to enjoy.
And to Steven Spielberg and Quincy Jones.
Yes.
Magicians, changelings, the knock at the door. And what does that mean?
Well, that means, in fairy tales, when you're sitting there in your little cottage and you have a nice fire going and you have the tea kettle on, and you're happy. You're happy. Yeah. Everything is perfectly balanced, right? I mean,
and there comes a knock at the door.
Then there's a knock at the door, and you say, "Oh God!" You go to the door, and who should be there? Some magician, some changeling at your doorstep. They have come to completely transform your life.
Were you surprised that Stephen thought you were like from some other world?
No, because
what did he say to you? You were some...
He said I was otherworldly. I was
right.
very haunting. I was like an apparition. I was, and he was right, because I was so sick. I had Lyme disease.
Lyme disease, right.
And it was just like being in a big fog. And I was trying very hard to emote, all of my support and my love to the characters, to the actors. But at the same time, I just wanted to go to bed.
Lyme disease. Are you cured of Lyme disease now?
Well, I cured myself by doing something that was very hard to do, and I think that's what can often cure us of whatever ails us.
What did you do?
Well, I got on a plane after 3 years of just kind of dragging around.
It makes you feel terribly fatigued, I'm told.
Terribly fatigued. Oh, you know, I mean, you sit in a chair like this and you look across the room and you think, that's too far to go, you know.
I'll just sit here.
Yeah. And I had, you know, canes and everything. But I decided that I was sick of living like that, and that there was a trial for Dennis Banks, who was a Native American activist in Custer, South Dakota. And he was up against the FBI, and they were accusing him of murder and mayhem and, you know. And I just didn't believe it. And so I decided that I would go and be a witness to whatever happened to him in South Dakota.
You'd be there and standing by him.
Well, I was too weak to stand. I just kind of flopped down on the ground, and I started getting better. I mean, it was the most amazing thing. From that day, I started getting better.
Have you seen the movie Waiting to Exhale?
Yes, I have.
What did you think of that?
Well, I thought the film was better than the book. I was very concerned that the women seemed so desperate for men. I don't have that experience. But I have talked to many women.
You don't know that experience, or you don't have it?
I don't have it. I mean,
You're not desperate for men?
No, no. I mean, I'm hardly desperate for anything, really. I feel, you know, that whatever is mine is looking for me. You know what I mean?
Now, how'd you find all this peace?
What's so of it?
Just leave me out of this. Thank you very much.
Well, peace comes to you, you know, by being peace. You know, you are peace. You become peace
but
yourself.
you've had some tough times. Yes, you have. I mean, I know a little bit about your personal life.
Well, I know, but
and a little bit about your personal life in this book.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah, exactly.
But apparently, you see, when we do encounter the difficult things in life, rather than running, we can get to a place, you know, in ourselves where it is pretty peaceful. And then you don't feel desperation. You just feel that, you know, the world is pretty much the way it is, and, you know, you have your life in it.
But you revisited here. Boy, what a great picture. I hadn't seen this. Look at this.
I know. That's me and my dog.
That's you and your dog.
That's Marley.
Marley. Where is that taken? In South Dakota somewhere?
No, on the beach in California.
Is that right? In Mendocino on the beach?
No, in somewhere else.
Somewhere else. But that's a great picture.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. But during the filming of this movie, you had the Lyme disease, and you weren't happy about it. And when it came out, everybody thought you were against black men, and you weren't happy because the characters weren't fully developed and didn't understand the relationship between Celia and Shug, which got short shrift, right?
Yes, but I understood why that happened. I mean,
you understood then why it happened?
Yes, because the threat of being picketed, the criticism that the producers had received, the letters that came in every day. I think that Quincy and Stephen were under a great deal of pressure, and they were really trying to do it right, you see.
To make a commercially successful film. To
make a film that did not embarrass black people. I think they really thought that that was what they were doing.
Yeah, are you and Oprah great friends?
No.
Do you like her?
Oh, I like her very much. I think she's a wonderful person.
Just have never become great friends?
No, because we just have very different lives.
I don't think anybody has a life like Oprah.
Right.
Nobody has that much money, or no one has that much.
But I think
she's also incredibly creative.
She's a great spirit. Yes.
She's hitting on, as they would say in my neck of the woods, she's hitting on all cylinders.
Yes, she is.
You know.
And I felt that way about just about everybody involved. You know, I mean, they were all really wonderful people, and still are.
Now, what does Alice think she was brought here to do? Great art?
Certain kinds of work, really? Actually, yes. I mean, and this female genital mutilation is part of it.
Well, you sure did your cause for that. You really did paid your dues.
Well, let me just tell you what is really wonderful, too, about this film, whatever we may think of it.
The film on mutilation?
No, the film on The Color Purple. When I went to Africa to do the work on genital mutilation, the African women and their children who met me, you know, happily, mostly dressed completely in purple, had never read the book, but they had all seen the film. They trusted me because of that. And I was able to sit and talk and to move forward on this issue, which I consider as important as any other issue that has ever existed on Earth.
I know. And you've spoken eloquently on it and continue to do that.
I do.
Are you overwhelmed by the power of movies and film?
I'm not overwhelmed by them, but I think they're extremely powerful. And I think that as we move more into illiteracy, which is happening in the world, we will need films that you know, do more than just show us how to pull the trigger. You know, we need films that really try to teach us how to live without violence.
And the danger that technology separates and adds to the division between haves and have-nots. You know, because the technology is
expensive.
Is expensive
Right.
and is in the hands of people, and it enables people to do things that are, you know, incomprehensible 5 years ago.
Yes.
You know, The Same River Twice, Honoring the Difficult, by my friend Alice Walker. Her story of the filming of The Color Purple and how she went through that, and some very personal things about Alice, who, as all of you know, and she certainly knows, I care about a lot. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow night. Vice President Gore will be here, also the Prime Minister of Russia. See you then.